Please stay tuned for a brief message from Jimmy Aiken.
As Advent begins, StarQuest is producing more than 50 hours of shows each month, bringing faith and reason into conversations that matter. Each hour of content takes at least 10 to 15 hours to create, and much more than that on Mysterious World, given all the research and writing that I do. Our patrons make that possible. This season, we're inviting listeners to become monthly patrons at $10 or more, or to increase by $10 monthly. As a thank you, you'll receive a Mysterious World sticker signed by Dom Bettinelli and me. And right now, a generous supporter is matching all new and increased monthly gifts up to $15,000 through Epiphany, doubling your impact. Visit sqpn.com/give to become a patron today. Thank you.
3 rings for the elven kings under the sky. 7 for the dwarf lords in their halls of stone. 9 for mortal men doomed to die. 1 for the Dark Lord on his dark throne. In the land of Mordor, where the shadows lie. 1 ring to rule them all. 1 ring to find them. 1 ring to bring them all, and in the darkness bind them. In the land of Mordor, where the shadows lie.
You're listening to The Secrets of Middle-earth, where we discuss the hidden themes and deeper layers found in the works of J.R.R. Tolkien, whether in his writings or in any of the media derived from them. I'm Thomas Salerno, and joining me today is the master of ring lore, Rob Leonardi. Hello, Rob.
Hello, Thomas.
And Patrick Mason. Hello, Pat.
Howdy, Thomas.
And Jeff Haecker. Hello there, Jeff.
Hey, Thomas.
Today, we are celebrating 100 episodes of The Secrets of Middle-earth.
Oh.
That's right, 100 episodes of Doom. Yeah, going all the way back to when Father Roderick first started this podcast back in the day. In fact, I just told him the other day we were doing the 100th episode. He seemed so pleased by that, that we're still going. Today, we shall be discussing the almost final part of the Silmarillion and spend a little time celebrating this podcast. You may remember previously we had stated we intended to end the Silmarillion with this episode, but the best laid plans of hobbits and wizards often go awry, and, well, this is a very long and involved section of the Silmarillion. So we thought to do it justice, better to split it in 2 for the 100th and 101st episodes. But before we dive in, be sure to follow The Secrets of Middle-earth in Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music, Spotify, or any podcast directory or app. You can find us on social media at facebook.com/StarQuestMedia, on X, where we are at SQPN, and on Instagram, where we are at StarQuest Network. And of course, don't forget to grab, in time for Yuletide, your official Secrets of Middle-earth merch, including our awesome t-shirt at sqpn.com/merch. It's a great way to pick up Tolkien-themed gifts for the Tolkien lore master in your life and to show your love for the professor and his wonderful world of Middle-earth. But we are diving right into the final part of the Silmarillion tonight, of the Rings of Power and the Third Age, in which these tales come to their end. Sort of, not quite yet, kind of. But, this is a strange section because it's kind of a recap of some things we've already seen in the Akallabeth. And, of course, a lot of stuff that has been handled or maybe mishandled in the Rings of Power streaming television show.
Wait, you mean we're not covering the Rings of Power, the show right now?
No, what? No, yes. We've already devoted like episode by episode chronicles of the Rings of Power television show / the most expensive piece of Lord of the Rings fan fiction ever devised. Or, as some would say, ever forged within the heart of Mount Doom. But
I thought that was D&D.
You know, that's a good point.
You're not wrong.
But yeah, what did you guys think of this section? Again, a very narrative heavy section, not a whole lot of dialogue, but kind of a history overview of the Rings of Power and their effects on the second and third ages. What did you think, Jeff, of this kind of ultimate section of the Silmarillion?
Yeah, I mean, I do like this section. I think the Akalabeth is one of my favorite tales that's in the book. And so this is kind of just it's kind of like the appendices to Lord of the Rings for me. Like, I love the way the Lord of the Rings ends, and then you get the appendices, so you just get a little taste of what's next with this. And yeah, no, I enjoy it. I like seeing kind of what happens, especially with the founding of the kingdoms of men, of Arnor and Gondor, and the War of the Last Alliance, and all of that. And yeah, I do hope that we make it to that part of the in the show Rings of Power, that they do get to adapt that. And well, I should say, I hope that they get to it and adapt it well, because I could see them mishandling some aspects of that. But I mean, I think, so I mean, if they get to it, I think that would be really cool to see, because I do really like because it is the last alliance of. I love the intro section of the movie Lord of the Rings, because you get Galadriel narrating the tale of that, and it's so epic, and it's like much more epic than the battle and then even the Battle of Minas Tirith or Pelennor Fields or the Black Gate. It's just and that's even just a shadow of the battles that we've seen in this book. So yeah,
I mean,
overall, I really like
the
this.
siege of the Last Alliance, didn't that last for like 7 years or something? So like, Pelennor Fields was like a day or something.
Yeah. Right. Well, and even this pales in comparison to the last battle, the War of Wrath,
or really any of the five battles.
Yeah, this is kind of a very strange coda, I guess, to all that. What do you think, Pat?
Right. So it's sort of a rehash a little bit, but at a smaller scale. And it's interesting because what it does sort of parallels our own history, coming down from sort of the Near Eastern ancient-ish time frame, where you have these 100,000 person armies on both sides of the field. You get some of the battles that Alexander is part of, or some of the Persian battles, and you have these numbers which you're just like, there's no way. You have so many people. But even if it's like a tenth, you have 10 to 20,000 people on both sides of the field of battle. It's a huge battle. Mm-hmm. And you slowly work your way down to the medieval time frame. And you read about battles where it's like 1,000 people. That's a lot. You got a couple thousand on both sides. That's a huge battle. And so it sort of kind of wends its way down into the sort of lesser era, right? Which is everything goes from grander to less grander. And we definitely get that feel all the way down to the Lord of the Rings. I really like this section because it sort of explains what's going on in Middle Earth while all of the seafaring stuff is happening. While you get the slow degradation of the Sea Kings, sadly, and you get to see what's happening in Middle Earth with the war with the elves and Sauron, and then the establishment of the kingdom. So this is all good. I think there's a temptation once you get past the Quenta and then especially the Encolabeth, to sort of like, well, it's over, right? The rest of this I already know the history of. But there's a lot there, and there's a lot that sort of interconnects with what's in the pieces that are at the end of the Lord of the Rings. And I really like it for all the little details it fills in. Although, much like the rest of the Silmarillion, it leaves the "why didn't you write more about this?" taste in my mouth.
Yeah.
I want to know more.
Definitely, yeah.
Less than half of what I hoped for.
Right. Far less.
What do you think, Rob?
Yeah, so I mean, this is sort of like the entire Silmarillion for me, where it's very much of my geekiness coming out was paralleling reading the Bible, because you have a lot of the typography of when you look at the New Testament and you look at the Old Testament, you can see how the Old Testament and the New Testament get revealed in each other and fulfill each other. And it's sort of this beautiful story of, as Pat said, the filling of the details. It's sort of like if you only knew one version of the Gospels, and then all of a sudden you see all these letters from St. Paul, and you see all these, the Maccabees, and you see all these different things building up to it. It's like, wow, that's a lot of stuff. And you see this beautiful interconnected story woven together. And I think it brings out my nerdiness and my geekiness, and it's a beautiful story all the way through. And well, Pat and Jeff pretty much said the rest. So
That's what makes Tolkien's world so real, right? Is that it reads like real history.
And it feels lived in.
Yeah. It feels lived in, and these stories weave and interconnect in a realistic way. Like you said, Rob, like the stories of scripture, or of, the Norse sagas, or, well, the Norse sagas can seem kind of disconnected a lot of the time, but well, it's definitely with the Bible and historical documents. Yeah.
Yeah. Especially with like growing up watching all of the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit. And now it's like, oh, look at all this depth. It's sort of like, yeah, we grew up listening to the Gospels, but then you actually read the Bible and it's like, oh, there's so much more.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. The Silmarillion is kind of like, it has that way where, like, if you've read the Lord of the Rings first, because I had a coworker come to me months ago and say, I'm going to read Tolkien in chronological order, like of the first, I'm like, don't do that. I'm like, read The Hobbit, then the Lord of the Rings, then go back.
Yeah, Star Wars order.
That's very much of a don't read the Bible all the way through. You'll get lost in Leviticus.
Right. Yeah. You'll get lost in the Beleriand and its realms, and then never get any farther. Yeah. So like, yeah, I was because I told her, I'm like, look, 'cause once you and she's only seen the films. And so I'm like, look, once you read The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, when you go back and tackle the Silmarillion, there are things in The Lord of the Rings which you'll then see in an entirely new light. And and then when you go back and read The Lord of the Rings again, it's like encountering it for the first time, because you'll be doing the Leo point thing over and over again and going like, oh, there's the, you'll
I
finally
understood that reference.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you'll finally understand all these obscure references that he makes.
Yeah, that's my always suggestion. Anytime anybody picks up any author, read it in published order.
Mm-hmm.
Like, doesn't matter who it is. Tolkien, Asimov, Lewis, right? Start with The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Don't start. I mean, don't get me wrong. The Magician's Nephew is a fantastic story, but
I love it. Yeah.
Start with The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
Yeah.
And you'll get the same thing. Like, you'll go back to the Magician's Nephew, and then you'll go forward and be like, you'll be doing the Leo point the whole time.
But yeah, so we're going to focus on the Second Age material tonight in the Rings of Power in the Third Age. And I find it very interesting that we get kind of Sauron's origin story, in the sense, like, his origin story as the villain of the Lord of the Rings is basically here in this. And in fact, that's a lot of what the Rings of Power in the Third Age are. But, we know from the Quenta that Sauron is, as I like to say, he is Starscream to Morgoth's Megatron.
and kind of
starting with the pop culture references this early. Huh?
That's right. Yeah,
Right off the bat.
he's kind of this ambitious understudy who would like to be the Dark Lord and now has the opportunity to, but we get this very interesting sequence of events where Sauron essentially meets his opposite number on the other side of things, the Vala Manwë's assistant, Eonwë, his herald. And we have this very interesting thing where I feel like, you know, it raises a lot of questions that the Rings of Power, the streaming series, is trying to answer in its own God bless him, you do you kind of way.
Yeah, is this part before or after Sauron is Guron? And
right,
before or
yeah,
after
exactly.
he's
Yeah,
turned into Halbrand
well, it's definitely before he decides to turn evil, a relationship between a dwarf and an elf.
What?
I feel like that was a little shoehorned in, but I'll take it.
I know. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. What do you guys think of this? Does he really repent? Because there's this debate of like, you know, he goes to Eonwë, but is he just doing it out of fear of the Lords of the West, or, you know, is there some tiny, however small, spark of repentance in Sauron? I mean, they say that, like, you know, the sort of, or does he just have imperfect repentance, as we would say, because he's repenting out of fear? What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think it's the imperfect repentance. Like, he's not actually sorry. He's afraid of what will happen to him if he doesn't, you know, say I'm sorry. It's like when your kids are, one does something to the other kid and you're like, you say, you know, tell them I'm sorry, and they're like, they give a sarcastic I'm sorry, and they but you still got to do it because you want to teach them, you got to teach them, you know, to be that they need to say sorry when they do something. But yeah, he hasn't learned to actually mean it, and he never will at this point. So yeah, I think it's the imperfect repentance, like you said.
Yeah, it strikes me as somewhere in between, you know, what we call imperfect contrition, right? Which is I'm sorry, you know, I'm sorry for my sins because I'm afraid of hell, right? I don't want to go to hell. So versus the I'm sorry for my sins because it hurt my relationship with the Father, whom I love, which is a very different way to approach things. But oftentimes one leads to the other, right? And so I think there's this question a lot of people have about Sauron, like if he has one of those types, could it lead to the other? But I wouldn't even necessarily say I think it's sort of guised imperfect contrition or repentance, because I really think it's more of the I'm sorry because I got caught.
Yeah. And
not the I'm sorry because I fear hell. Like there is like, I think there's a nuance there. I think there's a nuance difference there, that it's not, those two things are not quite the same. Like there is a difference between I'm sorry because I got caught and I'm sorry because I don't want to go to hell. I think they could be related to each other, but I don't even think he's got real imperfect contrition, because, you know, on his own, he just goes back to what he's doing. He doesn't spend the time in Valinor or even in Middle Earth pining away, thinking to himself, oh, what have I done? He's just sort of like, well, I guess they're gone, right back at it.
Yeah, and I mean, to bring the show Rings of Power again, it's all like when he's trying to get together with Galadriel, he says, you know, well, if you stay with me, like, you know, kind of, he doesn't say if you marry me, but that's kind of the implication. Like if you're with me, like, you know, we can do great things together, and you can make me better, is kind of like what he's saying there. So obviously he's like, but he's not, you know, contrite enough to actually change first and then try to, he doesn't want to become better first before, you know, trying to get a date with Galadriel. He wants to
just gaslighting her, as a stay with me or I'll destroy Middle Earth, you know, like, then it'll be your fault because you didn't hang out with me. And so like that.
Yeah, he's the most toxic guy.
Yeah.
Like literally, it was that weird goo. He's goo
That
rock.
eats people.
Yes,
That
toxic goo rock.
Yeah. What do you think,
Yes.
Rob? Do you have any more thoughts on Sauron's the state of his soul? I suppose.
I think what Pat said and what Jeff said is absolutely correct. That it's, if there was anything, it was definitely the imperfect contrition of, oh, I got caught, I'm afraid of hell. But I think that it was very more so, even more superficial than that, because, you know, I think it's sort of like I'm going to go to my brother and confess my sins to my brother. And then when my brother says, no, you need to go to the priest, you're like, oh no, I'm not about that life. And you decide, yeah, I'm just going to go do what I was doing if you want me to do that. Like he doesn't actually want to come back into the fold of the blessed realm for fear of whatever it could happen. And I think there's a lot of people that, you know, they just stay at, oh yeah, I can confess my sins to my brother and I'm perfectly good. I don't need to go to the church. And
it's why we have confession, right? Because you need to make restitution for what you've done. And so you have a penance imposed on you in confession so that you can make some sort of restitution for the harm that you've caused others or the community or what have you. And Sauron doesn't want to do that hard work. He's like, he doesn't want to do what's actually necessary for justice to be restored and for his right relationship with Eru and the Valar to be restored, because he doesn't want to, you're right, he doesn't want to go to the Valar and confess. Instead, he confesses to this equal to him, Eonwë, who's basically his equal in power and authority. He won't go to his superiors and confess because he's afraid of the punishment of the rest of, you know, perhaps he'll have to do many, many ages in the halls of Mandos. And I'm sure that's just, you know, peachy being in there. But yeah.
Tell me I got to do community service. Nah, I'm out.
I gotta hang out with Fëanor and Turin in the halls. Like, no thanks.
See, I think
Yeah.
though that is probably one of the biggest deterrents of when we, you know, people that are afraid to go to confession is, what am I going to have to do? Right. And of course the church is so wonderful. It's okay. Do these Hail Marys, do these Glory Bees, do these simple prayers. You know, granted, I recently had a penance that I had to fast for an entire day. So they can get a little out there, not out there, but a little worthwhile, I would say. Yeah. And, you know, I had a friend that he had a penance to go clean his parents' garage. So like, you know, there is something out there, but it's through the mercy of the church and God's grace, it's not going to be as bad because God is rejoicing that you just came to him.
Right. And that's something that somebody like Sauron, he just can't understand that, you know, and we see that in the Lord of the Rings. He doesn't think like other people and assumes everybody just thinks like him. So he can't fathom mercy. He can't fathom pity.
The little people.
The little people. Exactly. Yeah. So he misses his court date. He does not because Eonwë says, look, you got to show up, and, you know, and he just doesn't. So he gets contempt of Valar, I guess, for not showing up.
They don't even send Tulkas the bounty hunter after him.
No, yeah.
Oh man, would that be a series?
That would be a great reality show.
Yeah, just like Dog the Bounty Hunter,
Exactly.
but it's Tulkas.
Yeah.
Tulkas with a big old cowboy hat and like a shotgun
mullet.
strung to his back. And
Sunglasses.
yeah.
Yeah, but interestingly, it says too that the bonds of Morgoth were simply too strong. What do you guys make of that? That the bonds of Morgoth were too strong for Sauron to fight against. That almost makes it seem like I suppose you could interpret that as, oh, look, it's not really his fault, it's Morgoth. But, and I'm sure that's what Sauron thinks. But like,
So the way that they did it in the Rings of Power, I think was almost kind of like Maleficent, I can't say the word, Maleficent-ish.
Yeah.
With the whole like trying to pity the bad person in the story, kind of like Wicked, right? Sorry for y'all watching that right now. But it just the idea of like the Rings of Power was trying to, oh yeah, he is this way because of all this, and like Sauron laid out like how he was abused by Morgoth and turned into this what he is now because of all the torment that he went through, and he should be the one pitied. And I think that's a way to take it, but at the end of the day, I think it's truly him falling into despair. That the idea that when you're in mortal sin, I think we touched on this briefly in a past episode, but like when you're in mortal despair, it's so much easier for the devil to kick you while you're down and pick on you and bully you and just accuse you over and over and over again and chain you to your sins. That's what happened. He fell into this despair of, I did all this stuff, I'm going to have to do all this other stuff to make reparation for it. I might as well just keep on trying to do what I've been doing and hope for the best.
Yeah, you get this feeling that he can't even see another way to be. And you kind of get the feeling of Sauron because you get I think from this passage, at least what I took, that he kind of fell from grace pretty early, right? He's recruited by Morgoth fairly early in all of this, right? Him and the Balrogs. And you just get this sense that Sauron really doesn't know what his place would be if he were to go back. Like, all he can see is, if I go back, it's just going to be punishment and chains. It's going to be like when, Morgoth was bound for those 3 ages, right? And, the 1.5 million years or however long that was. And that's all I can see. And I can't see the light at the end of the tunnel because I don't even know what that looks like. Like, I don't. And it's this place where, I think the devil can drive people into, not realizing the good of who they could be. Right. It's sort of one of the reasons the Ghost of Christmas Past takes Scrooge to see relatives and to see his lost love, to show him that it could have gone a different way. Like, there was a different way to be, because I think as you get wrapped up into sin, you get into this place where you don't think there is anything else. Like, this is it. And any attempt to escape the sin, you can't even imagine an alternate life. And until you get that clear image in your head, any attempt to escape doesn't really work. And I think that's ultimately what Sauron's missing. He doesn't have something to go on to, right? For him, going back to Valinor is just punishment, and possibly unending or virtually unending, with no clear indication of what it looks like on the other side.
So do you think that then his whole project, where he's like, oh, the Valar have kind of abandoned Middle-earth, and it's all desolate because of the wars, I'm going to make it better. I'm going to do his public works projects. I'm going to build all this stuff up. Is that just a way that he is then justifying to himself what you just said, Pat, that like he can't see any good coming from, going to the Valar. So he's just going to make up this justification to justify his non-repentance, essentially.
Yeah. I don't even think he has to make it up. I think he gets this from Morgoth. Like, this is one of the things Morgoth kind of drills into, the people who are subservient to him, is that his rule is the proper rule, right? And that is Morgoth's stance, that he is the true ruler of Arda, and he kind of settles for Middle Earth, and drills that in. And you can see it, that's why everybody the slaves that escape Thangarodrim are eschewed by everybody else because they have that in the back of their minds. Like, he is the master, like whether they really want it or not. And so whether their escape is true or not true, whether they're let out, on purpose to be spies or to betray whoever they're going back to, they end up doing it no matter what, because they have that sort of overriding influence of the Valar of Morgoth driving into them, this idea that somebody has to rule this place and set it in order, or in right order.
Yeah, and that's what in the show, what was interesting about the character Adar, who, as we said, unfortunately died, because he was, because at the beginning of this season 2, when you see the flashback to the end of the first age, when the Orcs and Adar and Sauron have all kind of they're reconvening I forget the name of the far north place, but they're yes, they're reconvening there, and the Orcs just want a home. They just want to be be free to live their lives, which we've talked about the controversy there on whether Orcs can be redeemed as well, but
for their families.
Yeah, right. For their babies.
Think of the children.
Think of the children. But that's the difference with Sauron, is he doesn't, like you said, there's no other way to him, that his way, it's my way or the highway. It's I have to impose order because the world needs order, because it needs order, because reasons. So like he just doesn't have any other way to be, like y'all said. I think once was corrupted by Melkor initially, that just, he probably had it in him to be kind of defiant, because wasn't he a spirit of like fire, or he was when he was the Maiar, when Sauron was before
he was under the tutelage of Aule, so he's a Maiar of like crafting and creation,
right? Yeah, so he's already
hence
kind of
the rings.
Yeah, so he's already kind of prone to like wanting things in order, wanting things to be wanting to have a nice clean workshop and everything, like everything in its place. Like he wants that order, and he thinks that he can provide it, and that only perfect order by everyone doing everything I say at all times is the only way to get that. It's the only way to treat. He's almost like the Borg, like everyone must assimilate under my my perfection, and right. Then and then we'll be perfect, because being perfect is what we need to be. It's like a circular law,
I guess.
Yeah, it's a circular argument. Like, we need to be perfect because we have to be perfect because we have to be perfect. So,
which is very much of a bad thing when you get so enraptured in having to have everything perfect. You start becoming scrupulous, and that can fall into other things. But I think, not that that's his problem necessarily, but he's definitely looking at this power vacuum in a sense and being like, oh, that's calling my name.
Right. Yeah. In the sense that too, he's allowed the perfect to become the enemy of the good, where he's like, perfect by any means, where his way of achieving perfection is a little bit odd, considering that like Mordor and everywhere it's like choked with dust, and he's all for like order, yet his armies are like this insane rabble.
He just needs the one ring, and then he can make it all perfect.
Then he can make it right. Yeah. And so like we see kind of Sauron's modus operandi for wanting to create rings of power, and they actually do this quite well in the television show, where they do the flashback scene at the beginning of season 2, where he's talking about we can bend the races of Middle Earth to our will, because in his thing about order, free will contributes to disorder. except for his free will. Like, his free will should dominate the wills of everybody else. Every will should kind of be bent to his will, but by force, not in like the same way someone freely chooses to align their will with God. It's like a perversion of that. He's basically saying, I'm going to force everybody to do what I want or else. So you have this, and he knows that the most perfect of the creations of Eru. So he's got this obsession with perfection, and the most perfect of the children of Iluvatar are the elves. So he goes after them first. Find that very interesting. You know, he realizes they're the ones who can get me what I need. But the elves are still busy, kind of, because they almost have the same goal. So you could see how he could worm his way in to the elves of Eregion, because they're trying to build up Arda, especially Middle-earth, after the wars. And you have the founding of the different elven realms, like the Grey Havens and Rivendell and Eregion. And so they're trying to make Middle-earth, you know, essentially a mirror almost of Valinor. And so you can see how Sauron can then come on the picture and say, oh, we've got the same goals, essentially.
Right. It's the, you know, the elves are kind of stepping into the power vacuum as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to, you know, but set things, I guess, more right by their standards. And it kind of leads to this notion of, you know, a lot of the Noldor left Valinor not to reclaim the Silmarils so much, but to sort of seek, you know, adventure and kingdom and land or whatever in Middle-earth. And this is kind of like, well, whoever stayed and didn't go back after the 40-year War of Wrath, this is the opportunity to do that. And so I think we see that as being one of the drivers for the elves who stay. You know, they kind of finally get their chance to play at that. I think what we have is a lot of the, you know, you don't have a lot of the original Noldor. You've got a couple of them. And it's a lot of Noldor, you know, children who were, you know, born in Middle-earth and kind of fed on the dreams of sort of establishing a realm and the final defeat of Morgoth, and won't things be so much better here once we're free of Morgoth in this, you know, never-ending war. And they get this is their chance to do that. And I think you're right. I think, you know, Saranatar plays right into this.
And he's put against a very interesting opposite number. I want to move on to talk about Celebrimbor, who is in many ways a kind of Feanor 2.0. He is directly descended from Feanor. He is the son of Curufin, who is the son of one of the 7 sons of Feanor. And I think, if I remember, Curufin was one of those 2 jerks from the story of Baron of Luthien. Yeah.
Two of the C brothers.
C. Cookie starts with C. Yeah, so Curufin and
they were both monsters.
So yeah, another C here, Celebrimbor, and he mirrors his grandfather in a lot of ways, right? There's that pride, there's that desire to craft something that will be his greatest work ever, you know, and even as we'll get into, the 3 elven rings themselves mirror the 3 Silmarils in a lot of ways. What do you guys think of Celebrimbor and his goals, and kind of how he leaves himself open then to the temptation offered by this new fellow who shows up, the Lord of Gifts. I'm here to gifts, yeah.
And I don't look at all like that man that was here.
Anatar, the Lord of Gifts, yeah.
I think we've discussed
he has blonde, long hair now. Come on.
And yeah, I mean, I think we've discussed that elves just have human face blindness. Like they think all men look the same. So.
They basically say that in The Lord of the Rings. At one point, an elf tells Bilbo to sheep, other sheep appear different. So the elves totally have mortal face blindness. But yeah, like pay no attention to the scruffy haired king of the Southlands behind the curtain. But no, that is not part of this, because that is completely part of the television show. But what do you think, Jeff, about Celebrimbor and his sort of relationship with Anatar, the Lord of Gifts, and how Sauron's able to worm his way into getting the elves to do his work for it?
Yeah, it's very interesting, because it's very much mirrors in a lot of ways what happened with Fëanor. And, you know, because at the time Melkor back in Valinor was kind of influencing Fëanor, and, you know, trying to say, oh, everyone wants to take your Silmarils, everyone wants to, everyone wants to take your things. So he's kind of influencing Celebrimbor, not in the same way, because Sauron's more sneaky and like he wants something out of Celebrimbor, whereas Fëanor Melkor just wanted to cause trouble. And he wanted the Silmarils, but he didn't want the knowledge on how to make a Silmaril. So that is the difference there. That and yeah, I think it's interesting too, because if I'm not mistaken, we said earlier that Sauron was a Maiar under Aule. So I think it's been referenced, and maybe I'm remembering this from something in other tales or something, that that the Noldor were kind of kind of learned under Aule and Sauron, like before, I think it was Myron. So they kind of learned, they learned under him before. So they're already kind of prone to this. You know, they want the knowledge, and some of them don't care how they get it, or you know, they don't pay attention to what's going on. They just want the knowledge, and then by the time they realize what's happening, you know, they're stabbed to a column with a giant spear, and and can't do, you know, and when it's too late. So
yeah, or even worse, as we'll see. They even kind of tone it down a little in the show, like what happens to him. But yeah, and I will point out that Sauron, he never uses himself. He hates to use the name Sauron because it's actually a pun, right, on his original name, Myron. You know, it rhymes in Elvish, and where the word Myron means admirable, Sauron means abhorrent. So it's this wicked pun on his name. And so, of course, he does his original name. So, of course, he doesn't like to use it. But like, he goes around as, you know, I have many names, you know. Yeah. But, yeah.
I think a lot of it was that the elves started to forget about the Undying Lands, and they started loving Middle Earth too much, which kind of, as Jeff said, was getting them prideful that this was their home, and they forgot all about where they came from and where they're meant to be. And I think, again, that goes back to us, and you know, that this world is not our home. We're aliens in it. We're stewards on this world, and we're really meant for heaven. And I think that's sort of where it came from, where they had their own, Garden of Eden moment, where Sauron shows up and is like, "Yeah, those other guys, they couldn't help me with with what I need to do and aid me in my labors. Can you help me?" And he just kind of weaseled his way in there.
Yeah, I like how he makes no inroads in Lindon.
Yeah,
right. Elrond and is it
Gil-galad.
Gil-galad.
Yeah.
Gil-galad are like, nah. We're good. We're good. We're good here. We're all good. We're
all fine. How are you?
Yeah. Fine here. Large reactor leak.
Very dangerous.
So, but he goes to Eregion and he finds purchase. And I think it does in part have to do with where Eregion is situated. You know, it's sort of this realm in between the mountains that's kind of cut off from a lot of other areas, and it has this very intricate relationship with Khazad-dûm, and the dwarves. And so, whereas Lyndon is sort of this, in my mind, at least from what I read, is an attempt to sort of recreate the closest thing to Valinor that we can make here. Eregion is let's build our own stuff and let's be Noldor to the fullest extent of the law. Because it's, they're the crafting race of elves, and they're right next to this, monolithic and apparently mithril-filled dwarven settlement. And Sauron just kind of shows up at the right time and offers it. This is one of the things I think the show does really well, to be honest. I think is the relationship between Anatar and Celebrimbor, and sort of Celebrimbor's relationship with the rings and his own sort of drive. He's got that Feanor streak in him where he's got to make the best thing and it's got to be absolutely perfect. He realizes a lot earlier than his grandfather did that maybe this was not the best idea in the world. But sadly, similar to his grandfather, he dies at the hands of his enemies.
That's right. Yeah. The show famously reverses the order in which the rings were actually created. The elven rings, of course, being made after Sauron and Celebrimbor have sort of perfected their craft of ring creation, and Sauron actually has no part in the creation of the 3 elven rings. But I'll start with them first.
He didn't have a chance to put his goo into them because I think because one thing that was interesting is I rewatched the Rings of Power season 2 it's been a little over a month or so now, but in one of the scenes you see when the dwarves are bringing the mithril to Eregion, to Celebrimbor and Saranatar, you see Celebrimbor takes it, he hands it to Saranatar. And then I didn't see it, but I think it's implied that he pockets the mithril because he wants to use it for his One Ring. And I think because later on when Celebrimbor is looking for the mithril powder or whatever, they find that it's eventually revealed it's like Sauron's blood or his goo, his essence, whatever you want to call it, is being used in the ring. So I think it's, I think that's one thing that was interesting about the show is maybe, and I don't know if that's what Tolkien intended, it's something along those lines that Sauron was putting his own essence into the rings of the dwarven and the rings of men. But I thought that was an interesting idea. If that was, if he did pull the switcheroo to pocket the mithril to save it for his own One Ring. So
I think it has to do, honestly, with where exactly the magic all comes from. Because we know that the Maiar have these powers, but anyone can make a ring. It doesn't necessarily mean that ring has power. So where exactly are these different powers coming from? And I think part of that is that they have to have some sort of essence in them to have the power. So I don't know. This is a working theory. And the elven rings, I don't know where their power comes from. Everyone else's ring, I understand.
Well, the mithril's the lightning strike when that elf fought the Balrog and it hit
the tree. It may come from the essence of the elves themselves, because the elves are, while they're children of Iluvatar, have almost a completely different nature from human beings and are sort of innately, quote unquote, magical. I mean, they can do things that mortals can't, simply. And like when hobbits or men talk to elves about, oh, you're magic or you have magical powers, the elves will be like, what are you talking about?
Isn't that just science?
Yeah, to them it basically is. Or not so much science, but art. Tolkien would describe it as art. Well, what the elves do, but we call it magic because we can't do it. So,
right. Well, it's like Feanor's mom. She basically put all of her essence into giving birth to her son and then died. So I think there's the idea that the elves do have, and we see that with the Maiar as well, and with the Valar, with Melkor / Morgoth, you see that they have kind of a limited, they have a limited pool of essence or whatever you want to call it, and they put that into their creations.
They can only break their soul in half so many times.
Yeah.
I mean, 7 would be the optimal number, right?
Yes.
7 times?
But then you learn it's 8, actually.
Phylacteries.
Yeah. But you learn that they kind of have a limited, pool of their essence that they can put into things. And once they use that, like, Morgoth was putting more and more of himself into these creations, and then like was kind of had less and less of himself because everything was out there, in his dragons and monsters and whatever else. And you see the same with Sauron, is he put everything into the One Ring, and later he's bound to it because like he doesn't have enough of his own essence left. And so, yeah, I think that in the elves, they do always have that. I think part of their essence is tied to Amon and Valinor. So they're constantly, to some extent, to greater or lesser extent, constantly drawn west. Some of them may have very little amount and, become unhoused, as we talked about a few months ago, but because it's almost like their essence is pulled out of their body and then they don't because they didn't have enough left to stay in the body.
Yeah, I think it derives, I think, a lot from Sauron's activities during the First Age. You see all of the various creatures he's cramming evil souls into. There's the werewolves, right? They're wolves that he's taken an evil spirit and put into, and he's always messing with this, combining things that aren't necessarily supposed to be combined, or manipulating the essence of things, or I even think we talked about, like, if putting an evil spirit inside of an orc, that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And that seems to be Sauron's kind of one of his special magic tricks, I guess, if to put it, to put it in the terms of magic. And I think this is one of the things he teaches to Celebrimbor during this process, is this sort of, co-locating the essence of something with the thing that's being created. And so in a lot of ways, this is sort of and I think the show the Rings of Power actually gets this fairly correct. I think Sauron's actually like really trying to pull this off as a first time sort of a thing. Like he's been working on this, mentally for a long, long time. And he's finally got a chance to sort of, can I do this, not with a being and a spirit, right? Because those are sort of tied to each other. But can I do sort of, the fundamental parts of a spirit would be essence. Can I imbue an inanimate object with the essence? And what does that look like, and how does that play out? And I think, he does that with the One Rings, and I suspect the elves do it with their rings. And it is sort of not necessarily the creator's essence, but sort of, and you do have this, the elves are intrinsically tied to Arda itself. And so how does that play into their linking their essence with the rings themselves?
So kind of like Saranatar had to go to the elves and see them making these rings to figure out how he could do it himself.
Yeah, because he does learn something. There is kind of a two-way street going on, and he does learn something from Celebrimbor. It seems to me that he pulls off what is essentially a pretty fancy bilocation trick with this. That meaning that, like, he's essentially bilocating with the One Ring when it's separate from him. Mm-hmm. That his essence is tied to the One Ring, but he's also still there physically, or spiritually when he doesn't have a body. So, like,
that's why it's a Horcrux.
That's right. We keep coming.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Phylactery. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. We keep coming
One
back.
of those.
It's kind of like the emperor. He has a clone body that he throws his spirit into and somehow returns.
And somehow I mean, well,
I feel like that was also from the Timothy Zahn books too, though.
Well, not the Zahn books. It was from a comic book.
the comic books, yeah.
But
But
no, I feel like it was from the Zahn books too. Either way.
No, he was cloning. He was
Skywalker.
He was trying to clone. Well, it was Thrawn at that point. But anyway, Secret Star Wars.
Yeah, but before we
Listen
get too
for
off
more.
the rails, that can
Suddenly slip into our other podcast.
Yeah.
We can bilocate from one podcast to the other.
But yeah, and you mentioned the I think Rob, you mentioned, was it you who said that they're tied to Arda, the elves. So that's interesting because the elven rings represent three of the basic classical elements: air, water, and earth. Fire, I should say. Air, water, and fire. And so if the classical elements are thought to make up the earth, or in this case Arda, the planet, it's interesting then that if the elves are so bound to Arda, their life is in some mysterious way bound to Arda because it won't end until Arda ends, then it's interesting that their rings represent fundamental metaphysical elements. So I find that really fascinating. And which mirrors the Silmarils, because the fates of the Silmarils were in air, water, and fire. One's in the sea, one rides the air in a flying boat, and one fell into the earth, but also into a fire pit in the earth. So it's kind of earth and fire together.
Yeah. I also find it funny that the guy who gets the fire ring, at least for most of its time, is the guy who builds the ships.
Yeah, interesting. That's very interesting. Yeah. Yes. Who is it? Círdan, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Círdan gets the ring of fire.
The best of all.
Which brings the question of, because it says that there's many other rings that the elves made.
Mm-hmm.
What are those other powers? Are they tied to other elements in the world?
And you have the Ring of Heart, the Ring of Fire, the Ring of... when you combine 5, you get
Captain Arda.
Captain Arda.
I got a song playing in my head now. He's our hero. It's going to bring pollution down to 0.
Gonna bring Guron down to 0. Because what is Sauron except polluting Middle Earth?
He is toxic, we said. So
Yeah.
he's pollution. Yeah. Oh my gosh. So, but
See, and here I was thinking you could have the ring of courage and the ring of love and the ring of sincerity and the ring of reliability and bring all
my
the
gosh, I get that reference. Oh my god,
that's totally Digimon for those who didn't.
Okay.
That was my
catch that.
childhood. Okay.
Oh man. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a new pop culture ref we haven't brought into the Silmarillion yet.
I don't know why. I feel like I should have done it months ago, but whatever. Yeah, so there's war in Eregion because Sauron can't, like, he goes off to make his one ring, and they do a project without him and create the 3 elven rings of power. So and again, we have this thing where it's like, yeah, there's war in Eregion, Celebrimbor dies, and you're just like, wait, what? Tell us more. What? Yeah. Okay, like, so.
Yeah, and I think I do like the quote from the show on the death of Celebrimbor, if we're there yet. I don't know if you were, where he says, "But the rings are beyond your reach, as I shall be ere long. For soon I shall go to the shores of the morning, borne hence by a wind that you can never follow." When he's, because Sauron's trying to torture him to get the rings.
Yeah,
and
that was a great scene. That whole scene was great. Yeah,
yeah,
and how he says, the rings will be your undoing. They're not your power, And that was great. Yeah, the whole thing about being born on a wind into the west, which he can never follow. That was like that hit right here. That was great.
Twist that knife.
Yeah, exactly.
In your Sauron.
Yeah. But yeah, the 7 and the 9, just briefly, dwarves can't be dominated by the rings in like they can't be turned into undead slaves like the Nazgul. But they can become really, really greedy, apparently, as again, something that the show does very well, I thought, was showing the descent into greed and madness of Durin the Third when he has his ring and getting like really super, super greedy.
Yeah, because they all, both the Dwarven and the Rings of Men, they amplify kind of the innate tendencies. So for men, they amplify them wanting power, wanting to, dominate all that,
escape death.
Right. But then the dwarves, it just amplifies their greediness, and they don't want power. They just want more stuff. And Sauron doesn't quite know what to do with that. Well,
also then they're the children of Aule, his former teacher.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's true.
Have been sort of made in a way to resist the domination of Morgoth and his servants. So, although there's a very interesting reference in the War of the Last Alliance where it says that, every living being, there was some good and some evil on the side of the West and on the side of Sauron. So presumably there were some wicked dwarves on the side of Sauron, but they were doing it of their own free will, not because they were dominated and made into slaves.
And does that mean there are some wicked hobbits or wicked Harfoots that were serving Morgoth?
Oh, I'm sure.
Or I mean, Sauron.
You do have Smeagol.
Yeah. Or maybe that's like the origin of like red caps, in like mythology. Those little guys with the hats who like run around and like play awful tricks on you and stuff. And
aren't those just gnomes?
Yeah, but like red caps are like a really, really nasty kind of gnome, though.
Yeah.
And they just wear red hats, apparently. But yeah, Sauron at this point has pretty much captured most of Middle Earth. He's declaring himself a god king over men, and at this point, we basically have the other side of the coin of the events that were described in the Akalabeth.
Yeah, it's one of those. Say, someone says something and someone's ears 1,000 miles away prick up. Like, excuse me, what did he just say?
I'm king of men, and it's just like, I sense a great disturbance in the force.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you just have Mando's rocking in his chair playing his banjo.
Doom 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 doom.
Come on, Discord, get me like an image of that.
or make a banjo song about Doom. That Mandos sings.
Yeah, he's making Feanor play the jug.
Oh my god!
Turin's playing a bow or something.
Who's got the that washboard thing?
Then they need more cowbell.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. But we won't spend too much time on the Akalbeth because we've just frickin' spent 2 whole episodes on it. So. But you guys know what happens. Numenor's destroyed, and Elendil and
Spoilers. Go listen to the previous episodes.
Yeah. Elendil and his sons come to Middle Earth. They found the 2 great kingdoms in exile, and this is kind of your stuff, Jeff, right? Like the founding of the great kingdoms of man. I love it too.
Yeah,
it's great. Yeah,
yeah, and I mean, I love the Numenor stuff in Rings of Power. I think I've said that that's my favorite kind of the main storylines or at least it's one of my favorite ones compared to some of the other ones. And yeah, I would love. We've talked about how it'd be awesome to get like a whole show just about the kingdoms and like the founding of them and their the kind of the Game of Thrones style show of these kingdoms rising and falling. I think would be really cool. But yeah, I mean, I love Elendil and the founding of the kingdoms, and I hope we see that, you know, if they do full on the Akalabeth, I hope, you know, season 4 ends with the ships landing on Middle Earth and Elendil saying the oath, and then season 5 is kind of, you know, they might have to do another time jump to kind of get to that point of, like, the kingdoms have kind of been established for a little bit before they, because if they're going to do 5 seasons and it's going to end with the last alliance, they're going to have to make a jump somewhere probably.
It's interesting too, as kind of like a mirror image to the good Númenorian kingdoms in exile. You have the evil black Númenorians. So the kind of Númenorians who were obsessed with sorcery and became servants of Sauron, and their base is at Umbar in the south. And but you kind of have them like throughout the history of like the rest of the Second Age and the Third Age. It's kind of like the foil to our noble Númenorians. You do have wicked, evil Númenorians.
And there's a whole musical about them right now. I'm kidding.
Oh, yeah. 2-part musical, I guess, right? Like, if it was Lord of the Rings, they'd have to do a 3-part musical because everything has to be 3-part.
We'll do things in 2s here.
Some interesting things to note. Some locations that will become important later in the Lord of the Rings are founded, like Minas Ithil, which of course becomes the Witch King city of Minas Morgul a lot later. Minas Anor, which will become Minas Tirith. Isengard is created, although I think it's called something else.
Is it Orthanc?
Orthanc, yeah, but then there's I think it's also called Angrenost or something.
I mean, it's everything has
a million names, right? Because it's Tolkien. So, and the White Tree is replanted in Minas Ithil. Oh, and they bring the Palantiri with them, of course, across the ocean. The Seeing Stones of Númenor. Yeah.
But then the White Tree is destroyed again.
Right. Sack of Minas Ithil. Because, like, immediately Sauron is like, I thought I got rid of these people.
Yeah. By the time he gets back to Mirador, he's like, wait a minute. Didn't I deal with this problem? Didn't I spend decades dealing with this problem?
It's like they're literally like, it's like you think from Sauron's perspective, it's like, I thought I dealt with that gopher problem in the front yard, but now they're like right on my doorstep, literally. Like they're underneath the porch, you know.
Yeah,
like
I can attest that. Yeah, when you have pests invading your home and you think they're gone and you think you're free, and then they come back. So I can sympathize with Sauron here for that aspect. But like, you know, like when you have a pest problem, once you think you stamp them out, you have to post a guard on the land of Mordor and to make sure that nothing bad is going on. But then when you stop doing that, bad things start to happen.
Bad things start to happen. I like that we
Lord of the Rings.
See Lord of the Rings. Yeah, we Isildur has to rescue the White Tree again.
Yeah.
He does the same thing. He rescues a seedling.
Well, not the same thing. There's no Mission Impossible thing going on here.
Right. He's not climbing the Burj Khalifa. Yeah. But yeah, Jeff, since you really like the War of the Last Alliance, did you have anything in particular you wanted to bring up about it?
No, I mean, I just, like I said earlier, I love the intro to the movies where you have like Galadriel narrating it, you have shots of what's going on, and then you in just such a condensed few lines, you get a sense of how big this thing was, how big this army was, and it's like the last ditch to effort to try to, you know, stop Sauron. And of course they succeed for now, which is, you know, of course it's like with anything in life, or, you know, any fight against evil, you succeed for a time, but it's always going to come back in some way. And so as the good men, you know, they have to be vigilant, but unfortunately, you know, the kingdoms start to fall and decline, and it leads to, you know, the Dunedain having to kind of be in hiding and or not in hiding, but they become the Rangers rather than having their own kingdom. So they have to kind of keep that watchful eye. So, but yeah, I mean, overall, that's one thing that would be really, really awesome to see on screen in a like a full season of a show, and not just a few minutes of a movie, but getting to see kind of a big battle. And the battles in the show have been some good, some have been not as epic as I kind of hope. So I'm hoping they're kind of saving budget for kind of a big full on battle like we want to see. So yeah, no, I just really like that they it's all the the good people are coming together to try to fight evil, which is always a good thing.
Yeah, just like a few things to note. One of Elendil's sons dies in the battle, so potential spoilers for the Rings of Power television show. Yeah, Anarion is crushed by a rock that's hurled from.
I think we have to
Celebrimbor.
see him first.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's like in the first Star Wars, right? You don't see the planet before it's destroyed. Like really, like it's like, oh, this whole planet Alderaan was blown up. I've never seen it. Like anyway,
He's just going to be off screen the entire show, and then
And he's just gonna die.
he'll die. He'll have the Wilhelm scream, like oh, it's like,
ah!
Somewhere in the background.
yeah. And there's the famous duel between three-way duel, Sauron against Elendil and Gil-galad the Elven King. Which is why I was so disappointed in Gil-galad in season 1 in the Rings of Power. I'm so glad that in season 2 he's much closer to what he should be.
Yeah, well, they didn't even name him. I don't think they named him Gil-galad in the first season. I think I think it took until the second season before they name dropped him, and I don't know why. I don't know if it's because they needed to like work something out with the rights or something, or I don't know. It was they just I'm pretty sure in the first season they just called him the High King. And it wasn't until season 2 that they actually name dropped him as Gil-galad. But
well, then somebody needed to tell that actor, like in all his interviews, to not they did, because apparently they didn't. Kept calling himself Gil-galad. So
well, yeah.
Is it Gil-galad or is he Gil-galad?
that's a good question. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Someone who knows Quenya or Sindarin, tell us what.
And his real name's Erenion. Gil-galad's like a nickname. Like he's because Gil-galad means starlight, but Erenion, his like birth name, means like child of kings.
Well, yeah, because elves they have like mother names and father names, and like when they become of age, they change their name.
They change their names, yeah.
But yeah, I hope the duel is something we get to see. Like I think that would be really awesome to see kind of that.
They kind of have to.
Yeah.
And they can't weasel their way out of it by saying, "Oh, we don't have the rights." I'm like, "Yes, you do. You anything that's mentioned in the Lord of the Rings, you can do." So,
oh yeah.
But yeah, it's like But if you've seen the films, you know what we're talking about. It's in the first part of it. Elendil and Gil-galad are no more. Interestingly, it talks about how like Gil-galad, he is killed by literally the burning touch of Sauron's hand. Like Gil-galad is literally burnt to a crisp. It reminds me of that scene in the 1989 Batman where the Joker kills that guy by burning him to death with the joy buzzer. It's a hot time in the old town tonight. Remember?
I'm trying. I really am. Oh man.
I vaguely remember
We've
that.
got a live one here. It's like,
yeah,
that's such a good scene.
Okay, yeah. I remember that with the joy buzzer. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Haven't you ever heard of the healing power of laughter? They ought to give some of these lines to Sauron.
That'd be a good episode comparing the Sauron and Joker.
You can tell listeners it's getting late in the evening because I'm starting to go a little bit off the rails. But
yeah.
But yeah. Do you guys have any other thoughts about the War of the Last Alliance, the duel, the Sauron, I suppose, becoming Guron again because he loses his physical body again, and the loss of the One Ring? We're just ending the Second Age, folks.
Yeah, nothing else. Yeah, I mean, we'll see what, I'm very curious to see how the show kind of adapts. Like, does it end when, like, where exactly will like the finale of it be as far as this? Like, will we see Isildur pick up the ring, and then will we see him not throwing it into the fire like Elrond tells him to, and all that, or kind of how they do? So in about 20 years, we'll finally get season 5 and know the outcome.
I hope they start filming it like they did the Peter Jackson films, where they just do it all at once.
Yeah,
hopefully. Well, the problem is they get renewed for like one at a time, and so they can only do so much before they get the final go ahead. But I'm hoping that they as they're working on season 3, like that they're starting to do things back to back, so it doesn't delay things as much. But.
Yeah, it's too bad. I mean, live action Last Airbender got both their seasons renewed at once, which was good for them because then they don't have to worry about it. So like,
yeah. I think it's interesting the way it goes into the rings, that how the 9 affect the men, and how it seems like what happens to them is kind of a surprise to most of them. They kind of just eventually find themselves in this state of being unable to be seen and completely dominated by Sauron's will. And even, I guess, there's some, it makes, at least it references, no matter how good their intentions are when they take the ring, that it eventually undoes them. And I'm really interested to see how the show does this. How Sauron, because now he's got the ring, he's got the 9. He's got the 9 rings. And so now he's going to go about starting to pick his chosen people, right? His chosen men to corrupt. And we know who a couple of them are.
We know who one is, and he's going to be the Witch Kemen of Angmar.
Yeah, sure he is. Sure he is. Not where my bed is, but we know at least one of them is going to be a high-ranking Easterling of some kind.
Yep.
And we know at least 3 of them are going to be Númenóreans. And it wouldn't surprise me if some men he chooses who get the ring are killed by other men who then take the ring and try and use it in the same kind of way Isildur keeps the ring, the One Ring. These men keep the ring and think, okay, I can use this, for good and sort of rule over my realm, and it'll help me. And it ends up like all of them betraying him. So I'm really interested to see if the show goes into that and how it goes into that.
Interesting.
One of them gets lost in a river, and the another Númenórean picks it up.
Well, we all know that no man can kill a Nazgul.
Or was it just the Witch King?
I thought it was just the Witch King.
Oh, maybe so. I don't know.
Yeah.
Thanks for ruining my joke.
You're most welcome. What about you, Rob? Any wrap up thoughts on this section of? I'm really glad that we cut this here, because otherwise we'd be going on for at least another hour. But
we were 30 minutes in on just the first page of this
outline. Yeah.
Yeah, no, just it's really nice walking it all the way up to where it all started for many, many people. So it's finally coming to an end.
All good things must come to an end. Yeah.
The journey doesn't end here.
Wait, is that a reference to something?
It's what Gandalf says to in the movie to Pippin. He says,
"Oh, right, of course."
Or he says, "Death is not the end."
Death is not the end. Yeah.
I think he says something like, journeys end at the end of, I don't know, where my brain is turning to you at this point.
Yeah.
Correct us in the comments. Yeah. If you guys, the listeners, have any ideas on things you would like us to cover when we're finished with the Silmarillion, let us know. We have a few animated films still on the docket, and we need to round out the live action Hobbit trilogy with all its dwarf elf romantic goodness or badness, depending on your point of view, I suppose. And
Look, it's not shoehorned in.
Do we really need to?
And of course, future seasons of the Rings of Power and eventually other live action films. Who knows? The Hunt for Gollum. I'm sure it'll be parts 1 through 3 because they can protest all they like. But until until I see the first one and it's a complete moot story from beginning to end, I wouldn't put anything past these people. But
well, we do have our 11th first episode coming up.
Yes, 11st episode where we're planning something very special for that with our good friend Alex Murray. So stay tuned. It's going to be a lot of fun, hopefully. 100 episodes. Thank you, everybody, for listening. And I want to thank you, Jeff, Rob, and Patrick for being with us for a lot of these. Do you guys have any favorite memories of the podcast that you've been on for this show so far?
I mean, for me, just overall, this started my podcasting journey, and I'm now on several SKPN shows. And so I'm just grateful for the opportunity. I remember, I think it was on Discord, Dom was asking, do people want to, asking for people to cover this? And, I volunteered, not knowing how it was going to go and everything, but it's just been a lot of fun covering the show, a lot of laughs, and then a lot of fun walking back through the Silmarillion again. And I want to read. I want to kind of. It's taken us almost 2 years to read through it. And I mean, just because we're covering it, like twice per month. So I kind of want to go back now.
3 years.
2, yeah. I think we started December of 23, and it's now December of 25. So.
Wow. Okay then.
But yeah, I mean, I've loved just covering a variety of topics and getting to journey with you, Thomas, and you, Pat, and now you, Rob, and our former panelists that we've that are still around, but we haven't just had other commitments. And just all the listeners, we've had a lot of fun, a lot of laughs, and all of our references to pop culture and elf and dwarf romances. And,
we really need a bingo card for this show. We really do.
Or someone just needs to come up with a drinking game for us.
Yeah.
It'd be a dangerous drinking.
But yeah, just for me, thanks everybody here on the panel. Thanks to all of our listeners. Yeah.
For me, I mean, I've only been here for a few episodes. I remember when Dom put the call out, and I was like, that seems awesome. I would love to do it, but I don't think I can do it. I'm not that smart. And
turns out neither are we, Rob.
You're in good company.
We're fools, but we're honest fools.
Honest fools we remain. Yes.
It was just it's been wonderful, and I really love to use the voice I get to scare my kids with all the time.
I'm sure that goes over well.
So it's just been awesome. Thank you all.
Yeah, what a journey. I didn't even realize it was 2 years. I mean, we've gone a long way from flames across the side of my face to doom and deep groans and it's a philactery. Just the amount of zaniness that Dom puts up with us.
Gosh.
I'm very, very appreciative. And, I'm cautiously optimistic that this is going to be a good podcast going forward. I think we've got a good thing going here. So I appreciate the listeners so much. I mean, obviously we wouldn't do this if we didn't have y'all. So,
We'd be doing it. We just would be sitting around in a bar. Somewhere.
Yeah.
No, out of all the SQPM podcasts I've done, this one's my favorite, definitely. And not just because Tolkien is like one of my favorite things ever, but because I get to hang out with these awesome guys and talk about this stuff. Just want to thank Dom Bettinelli, of course, for letting us do this.
Thanks, Dom.
Thank you, Dom. Yes, yeah. And I mean, like I started at SQPN a little bit before I started doing this show. I was on Secrets of Movies and TV first. And then, when I heard that there was going to be, a revival of this show because the Rings of Power, the first season was coming out, I'm like, I am so there. Because I could talk about this stuff for hours as we prove, every 2 weeks. But just want to thank everybody. Thank the listeners. Thank you, everybody who listens to this show and for 100 episodes, and all of our former hosts and panelists, Father Roderick, Thomas Sanherho, Caitlin Fascista, Mike Schramm, Alex Murray, Catherine Laffrey, everybody who's been on this show, really, and who we hope to have again soon as well. And of course, thanks to the professor himself, J.R.R. Tolkien, without whom none of this would be at all possible. His birthday's coming up, January the 3rd. I always forget that's his birthday.
Yeah, I have it on my calendar because there's actually an official toast that you can do on his birthday. I think it's at 9 p.m. wherever you are. You just stand up, take a drink of whatever you're drinking, whether it's a beer, coffee, or whatever, and you just raise it and say, "To the professor." So at 9 p.m. on January 3rd, wherever you are.
That very well, I might be in the hospital with a new baby, so
you'll have something else to toast then. Yes, yeah, and I got the official.
And you'll need coffee.
I got the 2026 official Tolkien calendar, so I'm sure it marks it on January the 3rd. But that is it for this episode of The Secrets of Middle-earth. But not for this podcast, of course. We're going to keep going as long as possible. We'd like to take a moment, though, before we close out tonight to thank our patrons who make this podcast possible, including Holly K., Lawton P., Wanda KV, Mark D., and Jennifer P. Their generous donations help us to continue to create The Secrets of Middle-earth and all of the shows at StarQuest. You can join them at sqpn.com/give, especially now. It's the giving season, right? It's the holiday season. So we'd also love to hear from you, our listeners. What did you think about the Rings of Power? No, we don't want to hear your complaints about the show. We're talking about the section of the Silmarillion. What did you think of the Rings of Power in the Third Age, or any of our 100 episodes of The Secrets of Middle-earth? Do you have any favorite memories you'd like to share? You can let us know on our Facebook page, on Twitter. You can send us an email at middleearth@sqpn.com, or you can leave a comment on YouTube or Spotify, or visit our channel on the StarQuest Discord community, where there's always a lot of fun to be had at sqpn.com/Discord. Join us next.
And I'm still waiting for people to let me know if they tried my cookies or not.
Right. Yeah. I still need to somehow trick my brother into baking them. He's the baker, so anyway.
Well, you just need to come like Sauron and try to worm your way into his mind.
I'm going to give him the recipe and say it's a gift.
And the ingredients.
Yeah.
You just happen to have them here.
But until next time, thank you, Jeff Haecker, for joining me and sharing the secrets of Middle-earth.
Thanks, Thomas. And our next episode is the furthest away from 100 episodes I've ever been.
That's true. Patrick Mason, thank you as well.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me on.
And Rob Leonardi, thank you for joining us.
Woohoo! 100 episodes!
And I'm Thomas Salerno. Thank you for listening to The Secrets of Middle-earth on StarQuest. And remember, it's a dangerous business, Frodo, going out your door You step into the road, and if you don't keep your feet, there's no knowing where you might be swept off to. To the next 100 episodes.
And
To the next.
Here's another show on the StarQuest Network you're sure to enjoy. PlayStation Portable. Find it wherever fine podcasts are found or at starquest.fm/PSP.